According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, link in the description below, an invasive species is an exotic species whose introduction into an ecosystem in which the species is not native causes or is likely to cause environmental or economic harm or harm to human health. Invasive species are problematic because they tend to outcompete local wildlife for resources such as space, food, and shelter. The population of an invasive species tends to grow at an almost uncontrollable rate because the constraints that would normally check the growth, such as predators, diseases, and parasites, are absent in the new environment. A good example of an invasive species is the Burmese python in the Florida Everglades. Originally from Southeast Asia, this snake has done and continues to do tremendous harm to local wildlife in South Florida, killing everything in its path, including threatened and endangered species such as the Key Largo wood rat and wood stork. The snake can grow up to 18 feet and weigh up to 200 pounds. There are no predators that can keep this snake in check. Their numbers are estimated to be in the range of 30,000 to 150,000. Sightings of rabbits, foxes, and bobcats have declined alarmingly since the emergence of the Burmese python. Because this snake evolved somewhere else, the local fauna in Florida has no instinctive fear of this creature and is probably more vulnerable to the threat posed by the python. An example to illustrate how quickly a population of invasive species can grow at an uncontrollable rate is the case of the introduction of the European rabbit to the Australian wild in 1859, when a landowner released 13 individuals. In this new environment, the rabbit had no natural predators to keep its population in check. The rabbit reproduced at an alarming rate, spreading to most of Australia by 1921 and reached an estimated population of 600 million in 1950. In favorable environmental conditions, such as those that exist in Australia, it can have 5 litters in 1 year, with each litter having 4 or 5 kittens. Rabbits can breed at just 4 months of age. All these factors resulted in Australia being overrun by rabbits. The agricultural industry was heavily affected by the overgrazing of rabbits, as it caused a reduction of available pasture for cows and sheep. For details on how the Australian government got some control of this species, please click here. Invasive species have also caused either the extinction or extirpation of several species. This is particularly true in the case of the brown tree snake that is invasive to Guam. The brown tree snake has caused the extirpation of 12 birds. The Guam flycatcher is now extinct because of this snake. Invasive species are not limited to snakes and mammals, but can include fish, such as the silver carp, which originated in Asia but is an invasive species in the Mississippi River and threatens the Great Lakes region. This fish has outcompeted local fish for resources, suspected to have degraded water quality, and is notorious for jumping out of the water, which can lead to harm. Invasive species also include plants, such as water hyacinth, that has clogged waterways in Florida, making transportation a nightmare and covering the water to the extent that sunlight is blocked from aquatic plants and phytoplankton, thereby preventing new oxygen from coming into waters. So, what actions cause the release of invasive species to an ecosystem? In some instances, the rise of invasive species can result from intentional introduction, such as the case of the European rabbit into the Australian wild. In the case of the Burmese python in Florida, pet owners who could not care for a fully grown snake had deliberately released this snake into the wild. In the case of the brown tree snake in Guam, it is thought that this snake hitched a ride to Guam on a ship from its native grounds. Biofouling, which is the attachment of organisms to submerged surfaces, such as ship hulls, can result in species being moved from place to place. Whether it is the case of the Burmese python in Florida or European rabbit in Australia, humans have deliberately or inadvertently altered ecosystems by careless release of species. The damage done by some invasive species, in some cases, is irreversible. It is my hope that this and future generations take better care of the various ecosystems in the planet that we live in. I am working on a video on novel strategies developed by researchers and governmental organizations to contain invasive species to the extent that is possible. To know more about the Burmese python in Florida, please click here. I will leave all relevant links to the materials used to make the video in the description below. Please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell on your way out. Thanks for watching. Cheers!